Hey everybody, welcome to Hear Us Out. I'm Patrick.
And I'm Paul. How's it going?
Pretty good, my friend. Well, I say pretty good. It's humid here. It's warm and sweaty. We're in two undisclosed locations, and it's the same for you. Okay. So yes, in our secret podcasting layers, we don't have aircon that's silent. So get used to his fuzz and my general griminess. Wherever you are in the world watching this right now, I hope you're comfortable, and if you can, grab some ice water. Enjoy it just for me. I really could do with some right now. So, Paul,
Ugh.
let's heat it up, shall we? Let's heat it up even more.
No,
Let's talk about
no.
controversial stuff for the
Yeah,
crack.
let's go for it. So, this week we're going to be talking about the opinion piece about separating artist from art. This is going to be a difficult one.
Yeah. And look, Paul, I think it bears saying to everybody everything we say from this point forward, everything we say is in conversation. We're not going to get it all right. We're not suggesting that we're right. And most importantly, we're not suggesting that you're wrong. There's no judgment here. If I say something like, I would do this, blah, 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 or I think I'd think that way, it's all situational. It's a full spectrum where every situation will be different and everybody's choices will be different. I wouldn't think anybody's choice is better or worse. So we're just going to throw around the ideas, talk about the situations, talk about the fallouts and impacts, hopefully keep this interesting and to a point, keep it a little light in where we can. This is a heavy subject, but we don't want to, we're not going to be negative channel and go for negative views. I'd love
No.
to hear from the people in the comments how they feel as we're going along, and so whether or not they would support or wouldn't support something based on the scenario we're talking about.
Yeah, it's all open conversation here. We're not going to be kind of going too depth into allegations or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's more of talking about the subject of just artist and art. That's
Yep.
which can be very personal, very like impersonal, that kind of stuff. So
And anybody we bring up as example to try and further the conversation, we're not going to be going into, like Paul says, the allegations against them. That's not what we're here to talk about. We're an entertainment channel. It's why we don't do lots of things that both Paul and I have opinions on, but this isn't the forum for it. So we're talking about the industry, the movies, your enjoyment of movies, TVs, and other part of entertainment. So, and I'm just going to throw to the comments before I jump in because I knew someone would say it and it just popped up from Brew. Hello to everybody, though. Hi, Pop Culture. Hi, Brew. Hi, Lisa. Hey, Ben. Good to see you. Brew has said it. As a music fan, this question comes up a lot. Well, now, doesn't that just lead nicely into segues in, Brew? Thank you to me and my first selection of images, which is Picasso on one of his works and a Caravaggio. This has been around forever. And when I say forever, I mean not everybody is nice who creates art. And specifically, a lot of people who are successful for creating their art, they're successful for their output, not for who they were. So they may be absolutely crappy people. There's lots and lots of theories and things said about Caravaggio and how he treated people. Similarly, Picasso, that's why I chose them as examples, not saying that they're the worst people in the world. And that's the last time, hopefully, in this video, I'll have to protect myself from what I'm saying. But, Paul, this is, since the start of time, the first person who scrawled on the side of a cave and the second person who scrawled on the side of a cave, one of them was a nicer person than the other. And maybe even the third person that scrawled on the side of a cave was a real ass.
yeah, like this is one of the things of kind of uh one of the factors in this kind of thing is more time periods, time, like, cultural changes and everything like that. Like, we've advanced quite a bit, so we get the benefit of essentially going through a time period in which we've tried to be better, coming back and looking at art that is done of a time in which certain cultural outputs and cultural views and social views were they correct at the time, which just makes art a little bit more difficult to look at because, as you said, Picasso and Caravaggio are of their time in a way, but looking at it from a point of our time, their ideas and things that they put into their art may have been is wrong by our standards. So, but the other thing is that art is a very personal thing as well. So like looking at these pieces and getting certain feelings and certain kind of like emotions and everything that maybe the artist didn't intend you to have or intended you to have, which it's a personal kind of experience and stuff like that.
Yeah.
So being able to separate the artist from these paintings and works of art can be a very personal kind of question as well.
Yeah.
So this is particularly art and old masters
Yeah.
kind of thing. Like, you know,
And I think it's fair to say that, you know, you walk up to a sculpture, you can respect the hands that made it, and say that's wonderful, but two people standing in front of it will have different emotional connections with it, or maybe one of them will and the other one won't. That's not a direct reflection of the person that the artist was. It's a direct reflection of the outcome of their sculpture. But that does lead us on, Paul. We've I guess I'll use music as the next kicking off point before we get into movies. I chose James Brown, Michael Jackson, and what's her name from Almost Famous? I was going to call her Hudson. What's it? Kate Hudson, isn't it? From Almost Famous.
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Yeah, somebody can correct me if I'm wrong. The idea that people in music, and Bruce already called it out, I'm using Michael Jackson's the one everybody talks about. As far as his allegations and what you believe or what you don't believe will maybe be the thing that makes you decide. But the question I want to ask is not whether you think he did something wrong or didn't do something wrong or whatever amount of knowledge or lack of knowledge you might have on it. It's more a case of, if you do feel that he was a bad person, would you still listen to his music? Because you have listened to it, possibly, depending on your age, before there were anything. So it's a case of, are you of the opinion that you should cut it out? And James Brown, for me, was that personal situation. I love James Brown. I love James Brown's music. I thought James Brown was the coolest dude in the world. I was going to go and see James Brown, and around the time that I was going to go and see James Brown, I actually, because I was never a big enough fan to read biographies or any of that kind of stuff, I started learning about some of the things, because it was the dawn of the internet around then, about some of the less than cool things that he's alleged to have done. And I thought, you know what? I'll listen to the music I own, but I'm not going to be putting any more money into his pocket. And that was a personal choice. It didn't mean that if somebody else was going to go and see him, I wouldn't go, that's cool. That's very, very cool. It didn't also mean that if somebody else was listening to James Brown, I was going to ask them, when did you buy that CD? Or, are you streaming this on Spotify, and is it benefiting his estate? It was easy for me to make that decision in that case. But then there's the entirety of the rock and roll history with how let's just call it groupie culture. We know that nobody was checking age. There's no polite way to say this. How do I feel about that? Awful. How do I feel about trying to vet every band I've ever listened to? I'm just not gonna. Does that make me sad and pathetic? I don't know. That's up for everybody else to decide. But maybe there's a blissful ignorance. If I don't know, then I'm fine. But part of that is because I don't think I'll ever truly be able to know. Because no one's ever truly going to be able to know until everything in history is recorded.
Yeah, like this is an interesting one because it brings up two aspects of kind of this artist versus art and artist kind of thing. So first of all, and I seen a little bit in the chat because I wanted to bring it up, this question also does change and morphs and stuff like that depending on the art. So, but I do believe that music and like traditional art are very similar and close together in certain aspects. And in then the other part of that is the support that might be caused by listening or using the thing, because that changes also depending on the art form as well. So that's an interesting kind of thing. With music, I have a more difficult time with it because I'm not that big or very, very invested in music. So like, I like songs, I don't really know artists. I don't, and this is kind of the ignorance is bliss thing. I've heard that James Brown, like I know that the things that James Brown has done. I don't really listen to him anyway, but there's artists that I do listen to. Like I like Michael Jackson. I like a few songs of his and stuff like that. And it's kind of one of those things where, like, when I listened to them back in the past, I had no idea that what the future holds. But at the time, like, what's that one? Which is going to show my music knowledge. The Earth one.
Oh, Michael Jackson. Jackson. I think it was actually called Earth Song. I think
Oh,
it was
okay. Well,
actually called Earth Song. So you're close.
fairly easy for the Philistine of music kind of thing. That was a time in which I was learning. I was like, I was getting more in tune with kind of like the greater wild world of cultural differences and stuff like that, and the fact that actually planet science deems our planet finite. There is this is as long as it will last and stuff like that. That song was very personal to me. Finding that out as part of that kind of cultural change and thing for me. Finding out later on that the Michael Jackson has been which was
There's allegations.
not a cool dude kind of thing, which is it changes that a little bit, but it doesn't change the feeling at that time. But it does change now of kind of. But I also know that Michael Jackson's a little bit different because he didn't at the time, or doesn't at a certain period of time, wasn't directly getting any money from it. And then also he passed, which also adds to that kind of thing. So that's the thing, is direct support question, I guess, that I want to ask you. Because there's other parts of art that will be direct support. How does that feel?
So you mean direct financial benefit for the person?
Yeah, that's it. Because that's part of kind of, I guess, musical support. Music, supporting music and stuff.
And I think it's important because we'll move on to the kind of the televisual and visual arts in a minute. What you brought up before I can answer that, I kind of have to say that same as you, I treat it differently, almost based on not just the art and the artist in each specific case, but on the art form too, because my brain, for whatever reason, doesn't recognize all of the session musicians and the producer and all the people in the studio and all of the A&R people and all of the marketing people who make music a success. For me, it's much easier to connect and go, well, that person made that song or that band released that album. So financially for me, I'd be like, oh, well, I'm not going to put any more money in their coffers. That's a decision I can make depending on the situation. Sometimes I won't make that decision, because I'm not just listening out for things that people are being alleged to have done and acting on it. It's not my way. It's not in my wheelhouse. But for things that are very much in my face and I very much know and I cannot miss, then it will sometimes make me think, I'm not going to support them going forward. I'm not going to support them going forward. But it's a really very much a going forward thing. I'm never going to go back and like I say, burn all the CDs I have. And part of that is it's slightly hypocritical of me, because in a while we'll be talking about movies and I will be talking about, well, all of the community that it takes to make it. I know that's the same for music, but my brain doesn't remember that as quickly.
Yeah, like this is because as we said, depending on the art form, it changes. Because music and traditional kind of art forms are more direct. There are marketing people, there are engineers and stuff like that help out, and as you said, session musicians and stuff like that help out. That's such a smaller contingency of people that you forget them, which is sad. So like but it then means that more direct support, more direct financial support goes towards the particular artist.
Yeah.
In TV and visual arts, that becomes a little bit of a wider field, a wider form, because they are part of a bigger thing, rather than you're listening to James Brown's new album, In a lot of cases for films, you're looking at the new Marvel film, the new film with that person in it, that kind of thing.
Yeah,
like if it's a duet between two musical artists, you're looking like what's this, like Mike Patton and Sparks, Mr. Bungle and Sparks, or Faith No More and Sparks, two bands coming together. Yeah. That becomes more of a wider field. That's two bands coming together, so a wider field becomes. But once once it's like Faith No More or James, like Faith No More hasn't done anything, I hope. But I'm just using an example because my limited
Yeah.
space. And like, do you know what I mean? So like, if
Oh
it's
no,
a
he's.
duet of a band, it becomes a wider field. If it's one band, you're focusing on the band. With films, it's a cast.
I think you're right, and that's where, and I'm calling out my own hypocrisy, because do I think long and hard about how making music is as much a cast of people in a lot of ways as making a movie? Because there are plenty of people around the songwriting process, the production process, etc., etc. But Paul, I think we will move on from music in a moment. I just want to, I'm sure you've kept a half an eye in the comments too. I want to say to everybody, I wish we could just speak about this more relaxed and openly, but the internet's forever and we have to be very careful with everything we say. So I'm hoping that we're going to get our message out gently enough that nobody's going to be able to react badly. So far, our wonderful live listeners are being cool as all heck about it. I will say, though, somebody's actually asked what happens if it turns out that we're terrible people. Well, we are, and you've been warned. So everything from this point on is on you. We're just not going to tell you how. But in the commentary there somewhere, the point was made, and whoever it was, fair play, that you don't know who the terrible people are until afterwards. And that's why I think it's key for a conversation. I think maybe we'll use Ezra Miller, who we brought up on a previous episode, who's let's say troubled in various ways with all sorts of things from warrants to arrests, etc., etc. How do you pick that point in time? Because if you don't know, like you don't know who Ezra Miller is, and you go and watch a film and he's in it, fine. You do know who he is, and you watch a film and he's in it, fine. You do know what he's alleged to have done and all of the negativity, and then you watch a film, it's still fine. But at that point you're making extra choices, a lot of people would say. Now in my case, and I think the Flash, part of the reason that we're maybe talking about this is because they're going to go ahead and release the Flash movie. It's going to hit cinemas, as we discussed 2 weeks ago. It was likely to. It's happening. Will I boycott it? To answer the direct question, no, and for the reasons that I gave previously, and I'll give a few more. Even he's already been paid. He's I'm not taking anything out of his pocket, so that's the financial question. There's my answer for that. In this sort of scenario where it's something that's pending, and I've got information. His older movies, different story. I have a choice before I see this. Do I want to? From a financial point of view, I have no issue because he's already been paid.
Yeah, he's not getting he isn't, or they aren't essentially. Is familiar as they pronouns. Yeah. Which goes, they aren't kind of a big enough actor to warrant a box office percentage or merchandise percentage or anything like that. So we won't be directly supporting them. Mm-hmm. So like that's the benefit of knowledge now. They were only they only negotiated a salary. That's it. So they've done that. That's it. That's all that's been done. So it means that now, yeah, as you said, the financial thing is gone. So what is it? It's now the art piece and horn. I guess the mouthpiece of kind of like, if enough people go to this, maybe they'll possibly. Though I don't think
it could reflect positively on them if this film is a success. I get what you mean. Well,
that's the other part of that.
That's true. Are you helping them keep notoriety that could end up rewarding them non-financially or financially in the future? For that, I go back to the basics of, well, if someone chooses to make a film with them in future, then I will be like, well, no, that one I'm not going to bother with if that's the way I feel about it. So
that's how I feel.
Yeah. That's a next level choice, or that's the next iteration. This is one that they've already made, and as you can see, they're not the only person on screen right now. Other people have been involved. Now I'm using people in front of camera, Michael Keaton and the person whose name I've forgotten yet again, who's lucky enough to be Supergirl. I'm actually going to check her name, Paul. Usually it's you checking names for me. It's Sasha, and I can't read the rest of what I've written there. Fair play to her. And everybody that was involved in making the movie. And there's an awful lot of people that were involved in making the movie. There's an awful lot of people involved in making other movies. This is part of a cinematic universe. So this is a very specific case where this movie sets up a lot of other people's work and effort. And in Ezra's case, if they're going to be in this and be in some way keeping their notoriety because of this, I think if they've done enough right or wrong, then the narrative will change for them. So if this is a way for Ezra to, have success, let's call it, that helps them reform as a person and, make recompense for what they've done, then that's not a bad thing. If it does help them just have a bigger career later on, I won't be part of that. And I won't feel responsible for that.
Yeah, because that's the part that I feel like. So if it's a project that's already been created and something comes out of one of the members of that project, the project is already, unless they are specifically getting a percentage of box office or a percentage of merchants or something like that. Merchandise is a little bit of an easier one because I just don't have to buy any of the merchandise. I could still see the piece of art, the film or TV show kind of thing. If it's box office, I might wait until it comes out for streaming and kind of try and dodge the kind of financial support parts of it and stuff like that. But if it's a project that's already been created, they've already been paid, they have no other kind of connection to it, then I probably will go see it. If I hear that later on, either like that they're continuing on with a new project, a new film, a new TV series or something like that, the choice becomes different. I will not support the new project, the new one that's being made. As in, I will try to, I will consciously not support it in any kind of fashion by giving it any kind of views, by trailers or anything like that. But with a project that's already been created, there's a whole bunch of people involved. And as you said, like, there's people in this film that are getting their debut within the franchise's kind of film. And it is unfair, because like we said last time, it's unfair that the possibility is if they decided to shelve this, which we said they couldn't financially, if they decided to shelve this, will they go back to those people and say, look, we understand the Flash was shelved, but we still want you into the universe? The problem is then scheduling becomes a whole big thing, because these things are planned out well in advance for scheduling and stuff like that. Could Michael Keaton be able to spend, 6 months another time, which might be already planned for another movie, on a reshoot or redone of the Flash? See, it becomes a whole difficult thing of kind of these people, other people have been involved in the movie.
Yeah.
They are getting their debut. They're getting their showpiece, and it's unfair for me to be like, one person has completely, like, I know the saying, one bad apple spoils the barrel, but you can just remove yourself from just remove that apple from us and focus on the new elements of the movie. As you said, it has also been supported.
There's always a saying to turn the tide as well, and push it in the other direction. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. There's always going to be something. Now I have to address something. Because it's been shouted at me in the comments. I absolutely made a mistake. I referred to Ezra with the incorrect pronouns. I would very much like to apologize, because I knew in advance. If I didn't know in advance, it would have been a simple mistake. Also, everybody in the comments should know that we're not actually watching the comments necessarily straight away, because I'm trying to watch Paul, so sorry it took me a moment. But I would very much like to say that kind of mistake is going to happen. And that kind of mistake, like I see here, like, come on guys, and that sort of stuff, I think that's not necessarily a good thing. Because I genuinely made a mistake and I genuinely want to fix it. But it makes me now feel like maybe just avoid anything contentious live. And that's not a good thing. And this whole topic is one of those things where there's going to be stuff like that, where I'm, now I'm worried about the next thing I'm going to say. that somebody may feel a certain way about it. So these sorts of things, and I think this is one of the big dangers. It's that every single one of these is a single instance. And like you said, you're going to choose in future what to do. I think everybody has to choose everything based on what's happening. Will people make mistakes even when they know something? And I think that's where I'm kind of segueing to, and he's maybe the most contentious person that's going to be here, Roman Polanski. I had no idea. I had no idea in my mind. I'd never seen Rosemary's Baby. And I kept hearing you should see Rosemary's Baby. But for whatever reason, I never associated it with Roman Polanski. Now, I haven't seen it, and I've never got round to seeing it. But whether or not I will ever see it now, probably not. Probably not, because what I know of Roman Polanski, I'm not okay with. It's a movie that I can live without seeing. But I could easily have... It was on my list of movies to see. But when I was putting stuff together for this, I was like, oh my God, that's a Polanski movie. And my brain had not connected it at all. So there's something that people shouldn't feel bad if they do something that they would not usually want to do themselves, or partake in something, or make a mistake. And I think Polanski is a perfect example of that for me. I'm all about seeing some of the films on his list that I hadn't seen until I realized actually they're Polanski films. So, Paul, what about in that kind of case? I don't know, you've probably seen a Roman Polanski film and not realized it was him that did it. Same as everybody in the chat.
Yeah, no, that's the other thing, because I know another person on this list is also quite big as a producer, as an executive producer and film, member of the Film Society, has done many films as well as Roman Polanski. This is the difficult thing, is that, this brings it back to a very, very good point that you brought up, which is we will, there's going to be people in the future that we are watching now, which will come out. That, as in, it could be really bad. Like we were talking last time, Ryan Reynolds could come out that he's a big, horrible person. And we've been very supportive of him throughout the channel, kind of thing. And we would feel awful about it and stuff like that. And for future reference, we would not be, we probably wouldn't be partaking in any new projects that he would do. This is the same of a film that you may not know everybody involved with, that is past. So Rosemary's Baby. If you didn't know it was a Roman Polanski film and you watched it, I don't think you should be feeling terrible about the fact that and you've watched a Roman Polanski. Yeah, I don't think it is slightly. It's okay. I guess the question is if, once again, on our kind of thing, if it's a past project that's already been out there and stuff like that, and it's not directly financially supporting that person, and you watched it and you found out that person was involved, I don't think you should be beating yourself up with it.
No.
If later on you find that that by watching that film you were directly supporting that person, I would probably have a different feeling about myself if that was the case. But I'm not also going to deny every single piece of art that's passed, that I may not, or may, because that becomes a whole minefield of kind of you could find out that it doesn't become a percentage game back then or to then. What happens if we find that Roman Polanski helped out by finding a really good second person, a second director, a associate director or something like that. That's his only involvement. Is that she's just been hey, this person's really good. That's it. Should I stop watching a film then? Does it become a percentage game of kind of how much are they involved in the movie? Is that okay? Is that not okay? There you go. I just saw that Night Gaze because it popped up. Night Gaze is a Roman Polanski film. I didn't know that. I love that film.
There you go.
So,
and that's the thing. We're not going to vet everything before we watch it. Going, okay, primary cast, who here's alleged to have been bad or awful? Because let's face it, there's a difference between bad and awful. There is huge differences between all the things that the various people we're talking about are alleged, and the various people we're not talking about have been, are alleged to have done. Some things are proven, some things are not, etc., etc. So are you really going to sit down and vet everything before you watch it? No. It's about the big choices that you can make on things, like I say, that are very clear and very known. And that's why, Paul, I think I was going to throw up what was originally just Kevin Spacey, but I realized that Bryan Singer has had allegations also of being inappropriate. And I like Usual Suspects. I've watched Usual Suspects many times. Will I watch Usual Suspects again, even though it is made by one and features the other? I will watch Usual Suspects again, probably, because for me it's not a Kevin Spacey movie, and I have not spent enough time researching Bryan Singer. So does that make my willful ignorance wrong? Now that I have some inkling that there is an allegation somewhere, should I follow it down the rabbit hole to see how, because there's always 50 million voices telling you that it's right or it's wrong or they were terrible or they weren't or it's made up or it isn't, or all this kind of stuff. Should I do that and then say, okay, well, now because of that, I won't watch Usual Suspects?
Well, this is the personal question of it. After that, it's kind of like you can't find out. You can, but it becomes incredibly difficult to find out about the involvement of every single person. You could be looking at a film that has, as you said, no one is wronged on the credits. Everybody on the credits is a-okay. But then you find out that literally just someone just stepped in, as I said, and literally just went, you should use these people, these are really good. You can't do that. You can't be vetting everything. You can't be doing that big of a thing for past kind of things. You can try it. You can do it. I would suggest trying it, but not down the rabbit hole as you suggest. But it becomes a very personal case when you get to the verdict point, where you get to the point of going yes or no. The teetering element is always going to be the fact is the personal element of art. Unusual Suspects is a classic. It is a film. It is in the film classics section of the museum of film.
Yeah.
It is one of the most amazing twisted films that have come out in the last probably 40 years kind of thing. And so denying yourself that as a film history piece is a very personal choice, I guess, as well.
Yeah,
to me, I'm definitely going to watch Unusual Suspects again.
And that's because at no point, like I say, it's not a Kevin Spacey movie. It's not like House of Cards, which I didn't watch. They replaced him. It's part of the reasons that everybody knows for sure Kevin Spacey, no bueno. Bryan Singer, on the other hand, I wasn't really aware of, and you've got his involvement in X-Men and all sorts of stuff. So I'm possibly maintaining a certain ignorance, but I'm not maintaining that ignorance going forward. So when I'm aware of things, like we said earlier, going forward, it's the next level where I'll start thinking, it's a shame if all that has happened, that people are still willing to work with this person and keep them at the top level. Which, Paul, I don't know if you've noticed the comments. I hate to say it was easy to be prepared for this, but the Harvey Weinstein, I shouldn't say Weinstein's, Harvey Weinstein has come up, and the Weinstein Company's involvement with so many things.
This was the Roman Polanski part that I was talking about. This is the empire of filmmaking, which is sadly now tainted by a particular terrible person.
And let's face it, jury's out that he's not a good dude. I've watched all three of the films that I used as examples. Lord of the Rings is being mentioned in the comments. It's impossible to escape things that in some way bore his name. Does that mean that I'll never watch anything from anything that had his name? No, I'm watching Lord of the Rings again. I am. But at no point when I watch Lord of the Rings am I thinking, this is a Weinstein. It's helping Harvey. I'm watching it, and the names that come to mind when you say Lord of the Rings of real people. I was going to say, obviously Gandalf comes to mind. But of humans that are existing in our world, it's Peter Jackson. It's Sean Austin. It's Ian McKellen. It's and I'm specifically not going to name everybody else. Um, you don't think, okay, well, this is a Harvey Weinstein movie. Whereas with Shakespeare in Love, which luckily I didn't like the first time around, is inextricably linked to him because of the huge Oscars push, and all of the stories that started coming out then about what a tough customer he was. Little did we know that there was way more than just being tough in the background. So he is one of those examples of somebody I think accidentally had one good effect. Awful, awful, awful person, but the Me Too movement couldn't have come soon enough. Like it's one of those things. There was never going to be a bad day for people to start turning the tide and standing up to what was going on and being open and honest about what was going on.
No, I don't like. Yeah, like I guess the one benefit is that he was the match, or sorry, the not the match, the roaring, like pile of horribly gassy up rags kind of to the fire of Me Too movements. He like the things that he did kicked off a lot of other people being open about the things that they've had to go through. The Harvey Weinstein Company, it's it that's my gray area with this whole thing. The Harvey Weinstein's a piece of shit, which goes and like that's it's awful now to have to look at lots of pieces of art that have his name on them, but you have to think of also the other aspects of it is that it is kicked off some wonderful people's careers. I know that the some of the ways that those careers were kicked off can only be punished in the fucking depths of the horrible depths of hell or any other void that you could possibly do. But there's art pieces out there that are now fantastically personal to so many people and stuff like that it's such a difficult. The gray area is definitely the Weinstein Company because
that's a corporation.
Someone there could have probably stopped it. They could have said something sooner.
Well, how much did his brother know or not know? The other Weinstein and the Weinstein Company. I don't know, and I wouldn't want to speculate. But yeah, no. It's a very good point. And after that, the rest of it is a big corporation. So how many things bore that name and never involved somebody with the second name Weinstein at all?
Yeah, like it's the Weinstein Company is a huge big gray area kind of mishmash of things. Like the art pieces that they created, the art pieces that they were involved in and stuff like that are absolutely beautiful. The company itself is a big mashmash of gray kind of things, and Harvey Weinstein is just
he's a big pile of grey shit.
Grey shit, black shit, fucking burn in hell.
The worst. Well, Paul, we're gonna nip to an ad break in a second, and when we come back, folks, we're gonna be talking about such bright and easy subjects as Will Smith getting up on stage in the Oscars and slapping somebody. So join us after this for more happy times. Seriously, stick around. We'd love to hear your thoughts. And ready for round 2 of the fun stuff. And the fun stuff being, well, Paul, if I was on stage doing an Oscar type thing, let's say, and I said something you didn't like, would you take me aside, maybe afterwards, or would you run up on stage and slap me, and then proceed to sit down and start shouting at me? I think it's time to talk about Will Smith.
Yeah, this is a kind of an interesting, because it's a new kind of or cultural story kind of thing of you know, Will Smith is a very powerful figure. Chris Rock is famous for the fact that he is a on the nose comedian about a lot of stuff. Um, so it's kind of like one of those kind of power kind of difference, or not power differences, but more kind of like, this is what this person does. Will Smith is a kind of powerful person in the film industry. Is it all right for him to just get up and do this kind of thing in a public manner? Not really. Um, so like when I saw it, okay, so this is my feelings of kind of the shock. When I saw it, it was just shock.
Pretty much.
I was kind of just like, and confusion of kind of going, could it be that this was Chris Rock and Will Smith doing a whole kind of like bit? But very quickly after that, I was just like, no, that's not a reaction that someone has after a bit. Chris Rock is a good actor. I don't think he's that good of an actor to be this like, oh, what just give me a second, kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
it was a very big moment. So what I felt after that was, what the hell's going on with Will Smith? Like, that was my next thought, was after I had the moment of like after the moment that I got over the kind of like, oh, this isn't a bit, this isn't some kind of like Ricky Gervais kind of, or Neil Patrick Harris kind of jokey thing or something like that. This is real, this is live. I was like, what the fuck is going on with Will Smith? What is happening with Will Smith that he is suddenly like? So I started looking into it. I know I learned about the alopecia, which is with Jordan. I learned about the kind of the joke. Like I understand more of the joke kind of thing. Like I know G.I. Jane. I know the kind of, I guess, the scene that they were kind of pointing out and stuff. But yeah, no, it just opened up a whole kind of going, what the hell is going on? Because like Will Smith on every other show, he's been able to take a joke and kind of, you then hear about afterwards that he may say something or something like that. Like, like you were saying, if we were if you were up on stage and you made a joke about me, I'd probably at the end kind of go, Patrick, that kind of hurt my feelings, kind of thing,
nice.
Yeah.
Or you could, slap me upside the head.
Well,
maybe not in the middle of doing the live TV job, though.
Yeah, like it was very public. It was very raw moment that it just added the question of kind of going, what is going on? What is the deeper story? But it did affect me kind of going, for later pieces for like Will Smith. I was just like, oh, I don't know. Like, I'm not particularly happy about, this whole thing.
Well, God forbid you miss Gemini Man. What a classic it turned out to be.
Well, that's, yeah.
I was trying to think of his most recent works, and that popped into my head, and I was like, please don't see it. It's terrible.
Like, okay, Dick or Asimov. It's like...
Yeah. Well, the reason I find this one maybe the most interesting of all is because we don't have to say alleged. We don't have to be careful. This happened. This is something that everybody can have their own opinion on. Afterwards, the majority of kind of celebrity friends, when asked about it off the cuff, were like, yeah, we all thought it was a bit, just like you and I thought it was a bit, Paul. But then when we realized it wasn't, that wasn't very cool. At the very least, people were saying that wasn't very cool, except for Tiffany Haddish, who was like, it's great to see a man stand up for his woman. And to be honest with you, Will Smith is maybe getting out of this easier than Tiffany Haddish, because I thought that was a really weird thing to say so soon after with no digestion. But whatever. My take on it, obviously, we've all got to give our take on this. You just don't do it. Whether Chris Rock knew about Jada Pinkett Smith's alopecia or not isn't the point. It's, not a great joke, and I mean not a great joke as in just as jokes go. It wasn't going to be Chris Rock's finest joke ever. It was a bit softball. And for that to happen out of it, in the setting that it was just not okay. But the follow-up afterwards, and this is maybe what's hurt Will Smith for me more, isn't necessarily Will Smith's fault. because he was obviously in a heightened emotional state. I think it's fair to say I'm no psychologist, but he wasn't feeling completely himself even afterwards. And then to, go up and win an Oscar. In no world could we write this down and put people in that situation and go, so somebody got out of their chair and walked up and slapped the presenter. Who was the presenter? Oh, it was Britney Spears. And who walked up and slapped him? It doesn't matter. They're getting thrown out. The set of circumstances that had to happen for this not to be reacted to immediately are weird for me. And the fact that it all just got played off almost normally afterwards is weird to me. So out of this, I don't think about Will Smith a whole lot. I don't even know what his next projects were going to be. Out of this is the one that makes me think, oh, what is the whole entertainment industry about right now? And I think maybe it was pop culture, or it could have been Nick Rains that said, how are we treating celebrities versus how we treat normal people? I would even say, how are we treating different celebrities compared to other celebrities, other strata, A-list, B-list, C-list, American or foreign as it would be thought of in the old days of the Academy. So are they US nationals? Are they, from around the world? Are they men, women, black, white, whatever it might be? It's a weird one. Like, it makes no sense to me. The more I think about this, the less sense it makes.
I can't agree more. Like, I think we talked pretty much as soon as possible afterwards, without it being like 3 a.m, that we were just like, yeah. And I think the first thing you said to me was, what was the Oscars director doing?
Yeah.
Because the first thing both me and you would have done would have pulled the best actor thing.
Yep.
We would have been just like, we know who won, we know how this is going. That's not happening.
Yeah.
Like, we would have just made an announcement in some kind of break and just been, we are not doing the best actors. That can be the story.
Yeah.
The story can be that the Oscars decided not to do the best actors thing. People can make allegations or like thoughts and opinions and everything about that.
Yeah.
But the Oscars would have probably won a ton of respect for doing that. Like, I think,
let's face it, I have massive sympathy for them, that they were probably like us, jaws wide open, thinking, did Chris and Will just do a bit on us? But because of the aftermath, it was the very immediate aftermath, it was kind of clear that it wasn't a bit. I don't blame them for not being able to react quick enough, let's say, in some ways. But the fact that there was no reaction at all, and like you say, that's the reaction we would have had. And as far as we're concerned, because it's the reaction we would have had, it's the right reaction. If they had taken some action or reaction, it would have said more to me. This one's it's just weird. So actually, I can see the comments are scrolling quite quickly, so we better check in on them.
It was Gav Duffy's one, which is, this has led to more stage invasions to happen, which was a prior concern a few weeks after the Will Smith Chris Rock incident. And yeah, that actually happened. As we said, Dave Chappelle had an invasion, like a stage invasion. Now, was it, I don't know myself. I don't know if it was directly as in like the person who invaded the stage to hurt Dave Chappelle, like, may have had the tipping point of seeing Will Smith stand up on stage and hit Chris Rock. I don't know if that was the tipping point, but it is suspiciously close to what happened. And it was a fear of other people of having celebrities not, and comedians specifically as well, were fearful of the things that, like, now I don't support everything that comedians say and do and stuff like that, but we've talked about it that they are slightly culturally necessary. But like, I don't think a comedian should have a person come up and slap them for everything that they say. I do think that the public eye, the public court of opinion, should shut them down if that's the case, if they've said overly too much things that are against our current cultural views and everything, like offensive kind of material and stuff. But I don't believe that someone should walk up on stage and try to hurt them.
Well,
like,
it's impossible for anybody to police that, because, like, you shouldn't say that. Well, a minute ago they were saying something you're fine with that somebody else feels they shouldn't say. So they should either not get up there and say anything, either everything's okay or nothing's okay, and then you can decide. It's like free speech. People are like, free speech. Yeah, and there can be consequences for what you say. So, free jokes, people can decide whether they're good or bad, but they have to be taken in that scenario as a joke. It can't be, oh, look at that person up there making a speech. They're being funny in between some of the things, but I don't like their speeches. Well, are they doing stand-up comedy? Because if they are, then it's all jokes as part of an act. Whether you agree with their political views or not, that's the same as whether or not you agree with your neighbour's political views or not. You can't run into their house and slap them for it. You can't run on stage and slap them for it. You can choose to never go to their house or never go to their show. You can choose to get up and leave the room. You can choose, in their case, for Chris and Will, they have plenty of avenues to talk about this. And it's not the way. Again, I'm not going to go in hard on Will Smith obviously having a serious moment of terrible judgment. The weird thing for me is it's everything else around it that stunned me more. And Paul, I think to explain to people the reason that, we were like, you just don't give the award is, again, a small amount of due process, that there's no way the Oscars could have known if that was a bit. For sure. And that it wasn't a bit, and that Will hadn't just tried to sell it really, really too badly afterwards. The amount of confusion there is the reason you don't give the award at all is kind of going, stuff may have gone down, stuff may not have gone down. We'll give this award out at the after party or tomorrow or at another time. Because then you can go and talk to these two people going, did you two guys just really screw up the Oscars? Like, what are you at? Is this Justin and Janet all over again? Like, because that was an accident. Yeah, I see an accident, my ass. They needed some time, and they didn't buy themselves any. Huge mistake. Anyway,
no, that's where we would have cut. I think it would have just been like, I think the benefit of us sitting here is the fact is that we're also not linked to any kind of marketing or anything like that, but I do believe that the Oscars would have won a lot of more respect if, as people have said, didn't give Will Smith the platform afterwards. If they had, as I said, bought themselves some time going, we're not doing the best Oscars or the best actor award publicly, or it's on hiatus, we're going to look at it, because eventually they kicked him out of the Will Smith was he resigned
from the Academy.
Yeah. So like it's just the Will Smith thing is one of those kind of so
should he lose his career? I don't think that losing your career is something that you can say as a phrase. Will this affect how people feel about him? Yes. Should he be banned from acting ever again? No. Will he have the success? People will decide. Should he be part of the Academy after that? No, I'm glad he resigned.
Yeah, so sorry, I'm trying to. Yeah, my thoughts in the head is this is kind of a reversal one to what we were talking earlier, kind of thing. This is one event that stems from something deeper, which has been slowly coming out further and further about the Will Smith's relationship and mental health. Should he be punished for the fact is that he had a lax in judgment because of pressure of what he was being put onto him personally. I don't think we should be overly judgmental. I think we should be kind of going, we should be looking out for Will Smith and others like him and others like, other partners and everything like that. The event itself has damaged our opinions on future works and stuff like that. But I think that damage can be lessened by learning the further story of what's going on. But the other thing is then it is also the other question is it the public's right, I guess, for lack of a better word, to learn about the rest of it? Because at this point, this is a way deeper question than we might do it again. The point is that we saw the event and then we learned afterwards that there's been issues. Should we learn more? Should we go deeper into the rabbit hole? Should the public be brought up more about what's going on or should we just be like, okay, there was issues, they're going to sort it out personally. At the end of it, they could, if Will Smith comes out and goes, I'm okay, I think that should be enough for the public, kind of thing,
Well,
That's a whole different kind of kettle of fish between artist and art kind of thing.
and to that point, Paul, and we didn't have this on the list of things to bring up, and tell me if you just don't want to, but I think we don't have any imagery. I didn't watch the Amber Heard Johnny Depp thing. I didn't, because I didn't feel it was something for me to get too invested in, simply because there was going to be debate on both sides no matter what. Now, a lot of people would say, oh, but if you ever have to talk about one of their movies or anything like that, then you should have. Well, anything that I watched or anything that I heard was going to have a certain amount of opinion to it anyway. So I'm just filtering again through my own lens, like you do with everything. Is there a burden on us to know more about the rights and wrongs of what everybody did in every situation and pick a side between the two of them? I'm happy enough to say I think they're both very troubled people from everything I've heard and know, and that's not groovy. Did I think that they were both probably not the best people on the planet in a few ways before this? I thought that's a good likelihood, just with some knowledge of past and drugs and other things that can make people do questionable things. You got to draw the line somewhere as to people say, well, educate yourself. So educate yourself on everyone and everything is a bit of a tall order. Everybody's got their specialist area that they're fighting for, and they think everybody else should be educating themselves on it. I know the Depp Heard trial backwards. You should too. So, well, do you know the Roman Polanski trial backwards, and at what point he absconded and why he says he absconded and disappeared? Have you done that for every single person that we've talked about and all the people we haven't? I think there comes a time where you got to kind of just tap out with the absolutism of what you can know.
Yeah, like that's kind of where I was getting at with the kind of like, should we know more about the Will Smith kind of like mental health and stuff like that. I did look into the Johnny Depp Amber Heard thing. I did it very subjectively. Now, this was my biggest issue with that court case being public.
It shouldn't have been public.
Well,
that my take on it was it's, and I know Lisa's just said that. I was all, why is this happening in front of us all? I know for legal reasons, and I know legally it could be public, but I'm more kind of going, just because it can be, should it be? Well, I guess, but that's one of the reasons I'm not into it.
This is the difficult thing, because it is a case in public court.
Yeah.
So they should have definitely, both parties should have definitely gone for a closed court. I don't understand why they didn't, but they did.
Yeah.
They didn't. My thing with it is that when I was watching it, and I was trying to take a very kind of streamlined down the middle lane with a lot of it, kind of thing, because I've heard of a lot of things on both sides prior to it, so I tried to come into it a very kind of neutral space. Social media was the worst part of that being public. That's the part that I got to really, because there's no,
I can't imagine it was good.
With the fact, like, first of all, like, believing victims is very important. Okay? I know not all victims, I shouldn't say that, like, victims. Not everybody who shouts that they're a victim is actually a victim. We've seen in the past week that has been happening with a Minecraft YouTuber has passed away, and a lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon of kind of like saying their own messages and stuff like that. People will jump on bandwagons to become famous, to make money. So my problem is that believe the victim, but there has to be due process.
Yeah.
And that goes on both sides. The social media aspect punished one specific side of this, and it was Amber Heard side kind of thing. And I do think that the social media thing came into it a lot, because then the jurors were also subjected to it, even though they were told not to in any way partake into it. This is where social media and the public
that's just madness to me. It's complete madness that anybody on a jury has access to social media in it. And again, I know different layers of court, and they chose this to be public, etc., etc., etc. But it's not a it's not right. And I don't have a side on this at all. And thankfully, I missed, the social media hell that I'm sure it was. Because let's face it, the one thing that social media can do is make anything worse and less enjoyable. God knows, even cars going around in a circle is hard to watch if you ever open Twitter now, because there's nothing but hate and randomness in there, and you're kind of thinking, it was just stuff where people went in circles or kicked balls. Apparently, football Twitter is scary as all hell. So, Paul, it shouldn't have happened, and the reason I'm kind of moving us away from it is because we're gonna hit time in a second, and we have one more that I kind of want to try out and get your opinion on, and everybody in the commentary, and that's J.K. Rowling. This one's, again, these are just examples chosen to have the various different flavors of separating art from artist. This is an author who then had movies made from their work. So there's another degree of separation. Yes, massive financial benefit, but also whatever, she's been saying stuff that I wouldn't agree with at all. But I haven't spent time looking into everything she said. I haven't spent time asking her why she said it. I've just thought, there's somebody who's not my kind of person. I'm out. But because I wasn't a Harry Potter person, I didn't think of it past that. In fact, actively not a Harry Potter person, as you know. So sorry to all the Potterheads out there. If Potterhead is not what you like to call yourselves. Sorry to all the Wizarding World fans. This was easy for me to just walk away from, because I was not going to be part of the demo at any point. I'm not who they're targeting anymore either. But as somebody who does, do you now feel that you want to know what the crazy lady is saying next, or find out the veracity of the claims that are being made about what she said? Did she really say it? All that kind of stuff. And I don't want to get into the specifics of what she has said, more just the effort that it takes to find out, okay, well, is this something that I agree with or don't agree with, and to what level can I verify it, and then to what level does it affect my enjoyment of Fantastic Beasts 3 whenever that comes out?
Yeah, okay, so this is going to be an interesting one for me. So from the books angle, I already have all the books.
Mm-hmm.
I have them on audio tape. I also have them on hardback and paperback. Will never needs to in any way give the writer J.K. Rowling kind of any more money in that sense. The movies, her only aspect is owning the IP, which she'll get paid for. But she doesn't. She gets IP for the concept, but not any of the movie franchises and stuff like that. So it's a difficult one there. Financial support is there, but there are other aspects of there are other aspects, especially specifically in the latest film, the latest group of films that are very weirdly nice to see on film. Very openly, gay characters, relationships are very complex and stuff like that. So cool. The story, the story, the plots are telling things that I want that, but knowing the fact that there's a foundation there of someone that is awful hurts me, because there's a new game as well coming out and support, and that hurts me as well because I'm a big gamer. Good. Now I'm really conflicted, and it's actually been particularly because the support of kind of which is it's particularly I've dropped it from my list because I just can't support it. So it's a difficult one. What she said, and we're not going to go into it, was awful.
It seems like she said a lot of stuff, and according
yes.
to chat, she's been supporting all sorts of organizations that support the beliefs that I'm assuming she has. Again, this is so easy for me because wasn't into it. It sounds like this lady saying dumb shit, so I just thought, I don't need to know any more about that lady. I was able to walk away. I didn't even have to investigate. if it was real dumb shit or if she'd really said it. Just like, yep, that's more of my life that I don't need to spend on that. But again, that's the luxury. She's not involved in anything that I hold dear. George Lucas starts doing this stuff, and I have to start asking myself about the next Star Wars project. Well, not Lucas since he sold up. I don't know, Kevin Feige. Pick somebody who's going to be a bit more central to my stuff. So, yeah.
I have a question because like the J.K. Rowling one, and it's been said in the Fantastic Beasts story in the kind of controversy and stuff like that has been big. Kind of thinks it's been a mix of kind of like J.K. Rowling, Johnny Depp, and like Ezra have all been involved with them and stuff like that. But going past those things, which goes, as we said, you were easily able to not support it. I'm a little bit more conflicted, in the sense of kind of in certain art forms I've already sadly supported. And once again, it comes to that question of kind of you don't know until you know. Kind of aspect. But here's my question. Sorry, I'll answer it. Here's my question. The Marvel franchise.
Okay.
It's such a wide-spanning franchise.
Mm-hmm.
If one person from one movie is found out that they are awful, do you no longer watch any of the franchise or any future endeavors? Or do you pick and choose from the franchise in which they will not be involved? Like films for the... Because I have a particular person in mind who is not on this board in any kind of way. It's more particular ideology that they have, which people do not agree with, but it's in no way kind of, as on the same levels of people here.
Well, and I'll answer the question straight. So this gets down to can you separate the art from the artist? Yes, I can. For me, I know I can. Can I in extreme cases? No. But I think my bar is pretty high because I don't view, back to the very start of this, I do not view the works of Caravaggio through the eyes of who Caravaggio was. I don't stand by a sculpture and think about the person that created it. I don't listen to rock music and think about what people got up to. And a lot of the times when I'm watching movies, if they're well made, I am lost in the art that they are. That's where it is for me. So I know I have a high separation threshold. Do I judge anybody with a low separation threshold? Hell no. I respect their decision. So in your hypothetical, Paul, if somebody in the MCU turned out to be a bit of a dirtbag, let's say, would I abandon the MCU? No. Would I have issue if they kept that person on, knowing, like if I know, I'm assuming everybody knows, then I might have some issues. Would they be part of ensemble films and would I be annoyed about it and still watch the movies? Yes, probably, but that's where it comes down to the individual case of who, what, when. Like then it becomes, okay, I'm going to have to consider this. But would I just tap out and be like, nah, they're working with this guy, so I won't watch any of their stuff? No. Because then you wouldn't be able to watch anything by anyone ever that isn't completely first film from an independent, probably.
Yeah, and I think chat have also spied who I might have been talking about.
I guess that's who you're talking about, but I don't know exactly all the details of what you're talking about, and we're not going to go into it, but there's there's a lot of statements of late going, no, not part of all that, and I'm kind of thinking, well, could you be part of some other part of all that? I don't know.
This is
the
thing.
Does anybody know?
That's so the level in which this person Chris Pratt is no way abusive or anything like that. It's more just his beliefs and kind of certain things. They're not overly kind of they're conflicting to other people and stuff like that, but they're not overly kind of
well, that's where I find it very easy. If it's about somebody's beliefs, unless I get to talk to them about them, I'm not going to understand their beliefs through the media or through reportage. Because it's up to everybody to have their own set of beliefs. Now, if you're a member, I think let's call this what it is. He's supposed to be a member of a church who sound like pretty awful people, right? on the face of just the headlines. Haven't looked into it. In that case, people have pulled other things and said, well, they were spotted at this place or they were spotted at that place. And guilt by association is a scary one for me and for those from America online right now. The McCarthy era is something that I would not ascribe to ever being part of. I don't like it's acts and actions and statements. So unless he says something, acts something, supports something overtly, then I'm gonna reserve my right to kind of go, I don't know if I can look into this to a safe level to actually know whether or not is he a full-blown member of a church with a bad set of views. Do some of the biggest churches in the world and most widely known religions have some views that I have serious issue with? Yes. Do I admonish and punish people who are members of those? No. So yeah, that's where I come down on that side of things.
Yeah, no, this is the kind of, I guess it's the level on which you kind of judge a person, like, because there is some deeply Christian people, like, who that's it. They're just deeply Christian. They, like, they may not have overly kind of archaic views or anything like that. They just could believe in something, and you can't ostracize them for that particular view, kind of thing. That's a bit, that's not how this system works, kind of thing. As you said, a lot of people. And I think pop culture said, yeah, the interview came out recently that he said a lot of his things have been blown out of proportion. They're not true, kind of thing. This is also the judgment kind of call of kind of media spinning everything and kind of going out of control. So it's a bit of a hard one. But there are some people out there that are just bad people, and it becomes a deeper question of artist versus art kind of thing, as the Weinsteins of the world can,
And just to that kind of being a member of something or being a part of something, I would never, if you're a member of a club, I will never say that you share all their views, because for all I know, you don't. And the same thing with, they associate with X person. Do they actually agree with everything that person says? I don't know. Like F1 Twitter, there's a simple thing. I'm into Formula One. I certainly do not share the views of the animals that I see on F1 Twitter. So if somebody said he's into that, therefore he must hate the planet, hate women, hate everything else, I would be like, no, I'm one of the people who's staying in there because when I got into motorsport, there wasn't open misogyny everywhere. Little did I realize there was plenty of it everywhere. It just wasn't open. Does it mean that I can be judged by them? Not so much. I'm not saying this specifically for Chris Pratt. I'm saying that there's too much of a gap between us and the celebrity to really know what they think or feel. And that's where I come down on that end of things. Now, somebody comes out and starts saying something like J.K. Rowling, like, yeah, you were dead to me anyway, you're completely dead to me now. Or Kevin Spacey, okay, Roman Polanski, there's pretty much plea deals there that say he's acknowledged wrongdoing. So there's a big spectrum of, I'm unsure about you, but I can never know, to, oh hell yeah, you're somebody I never want anything to do with.
Yeah, like, it's, once again, the art versus the artist is a very personal question. As we stated at the start of the things, one, we're going to get things wrong. This is a conversational piece rather than kind of like us saying what is right and what is wrong. Everybody's view in this kind of sense, as long as it isn't hurting overly anybody else, kind of thing, is the way that you deal with these things. I think me and Patrick are very similar in the sense of kind of past art is very personal. We'll probably rewatch it. Any new projects will probably deny it, and then the nuances in between those kind of two aspects are kind of judged on a day-to-day basis, kind of thing. So I think this is, I want to thank Patrick, actually. Patrick was the one who said that we should go for this. I know I've been like very cagey for these kind of things, and Patrick was just like, we should. These are elements in which the entertainment industry we need to talk about. So thank you for bringing this topic to hear us out. I do think it's a good one to talk about. I also want to thank the chat for being very and our future audience. Hopefully that do understand that we are flawed people. we will get things wrong. Our views are always that everybody should be able to live the way that they see fit. No one should be restricted, as long as it doesn't hurt others, kind of thing. So, and that's also once a nuance kind of thing. And I also don't overly want to speak for Patrick.
I think we should say anything that we've said, don't hold it against us. You can take anything I've said and hold it against me. No malintent is ever there. I know Paul well enough to know that the same can be said for him, but his words are his, my words are mine. I think to kind of wrap us out, Paul, on this, it's been great having so many people join in the chat. I'm going to look forward to going back over the chat. I know that we kind of took up our time just talking to each other. This is an extra long episode again, but it does go to show there's an awful lot there. I would love a world where it's easier to talk about this and you don't have to be so cagey, but I'm pretty sure that people can and maybe even will dissect this to try and find a way to find malintent. Believe me, if you want to hear one thing that I know is true, no malintent anywhere at all in any of our videos. Bad takes? Oh, we're full of them. Sure, we pretty much said that Fast and Furious and Star Trek are the exact same franchise once. And I stand by that. We have a video that mathematically proves it, scientifically, nay, morally proves it to be true. So yeah, take us as seriously as you need to take us. We're not here to do harm.
Yeah. I do like how my Star Trek card has not been taken away from me by any other of my Trekkie friends by being in a video that essentially goes, yeah, Fast and Furious is exactly the same as Star Trek. Yeah. Haven't gotten enough yet. Definitely think I might have to.
Me either.
Not after this one, but
and the Fast and the Furious crowd can't take your card away because we're all family. There you go, Fast and Furious family joke. That must mean the show is over. Paul, chat, everyone, thank you very much. Are you ready to go, Paul, or do you want to out anybody who's been bad? Okay, we'll let them off this week. Tune in next week to find out who's secretly been an absolute bastard in the head of Hollywood. Only me and Paul know. That's why you have to come back. Subscribe, and share. Yeah, we don't really know anything. And with that, I've been Patrick.
I've been Paul.
And we've been Hear Us Out. We'll see you next week. Take care, everybody.
Thanks very much, guys.
Be nice to each other. Bye.